right, so we're going to keep going here. Welcome. If this is your first time here, welcome to Colorado Mesa University campus. I'm the campus operation manager, Tammy Duncan. And if you are not getting emails, feel free to come up and grab one of these. It's great because they send emails out once a week and it gives you like 3 weeks of what the topics are. And sometimes it's not held here, so that's good information. If it's not held here, I always put a sign up in case people show up and forget to go where we're supposed to go. It's going to be kind of different. This is Gabriella Clay. This is Kevin's Clay's wife. She's going to help kind of run it. If you have any questions, we'll handle the questions at the end, the last 15 minutes, where we'll hand the mic around so everyone can hear the question, okay? Does anyone have any questions to start? I'm just going to hand it right over.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you all for bearing with me because I am a sub. I am filling really large shoes and subbing for Phoebe today, one of my favorite people, and I just always think she's so great and she's so funny. So thanks for putting up with me. I'm going to introduce to you this morning, yes, he is my husband. He's also my partner in all things business. So we own a photography studio here in Montrose called Studio 14 over on Main Street. But most importantly today, Kevin's going to be up here representing our other business, Mela Environmental Services. So he's going to talk to you. He was here, I feel like almost 2 years ago to talk about recycling. And we've been asked to come back and talk a little bit more about that. But a little bit about Kevin before he pops up here. Kevin has been working in environmental health and safety for a little over 5 years. We founded our company in 2020, right in the middle of all of the COVID craziness. We thought, why not? And we've had the opportunity to travel around and work with national parks and manufacturing clients and a variety of other private clients and help them with their sustainability programs. And part of sustainability is obviously recycling. And recycling is hard, but we've really worked with a lot of our clients to help them understand strategies for how to manage that. And Kevin's going to talk to you about some of those experiences that we had in some of the most beautiful places in our own country, but also some emerging technologies that are coming up. And then he's just going to give us all a challenge for our community here. What can we do that will really make an impactful difference? So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin.
I prefer not to use a microphone if that's okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
No.
Gotta use a microphone. All right, so if I pull it away and I do this kind of thing, just give me the code. This better? All right, so thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's really good to be back. I didn't realize it was almost 2 years since we talked about recycling, but the good news is nothing changes in technology in that time, right? So recycling is hard. Do we all agree, or maybe you don't agree? So why? Just shout it out. Why is recycling hard? You can't see those little dang labels, those little triangles.
It changes by region.
Or they don't exist. Like, I know this thing's got to be recyclable. I can't find any kind of information here. What was that, Barbara?
It changes by region. It depends on what can be recycled there.
That's a great point, and I'm going to get to that. Even in our region, what we recycle, what Delta doesn't. Telluride contracts theirs out. They don't even have a city recycling program, at least last time I checked. So great information. So you guys are aware, it's difficult. And as a country and as a world, we're kind of failing. If we were in Kathy Haver's class, it would be failing at 30%. So, but recycling is hard. There are a lot of things that we can do locally, which we're going to get to kind of at the end. I'll hit this in reverse. I'd like to talk to you about some very cool artificial intelligence things that are going on in the world and some emerging technologies in recycling that will make it easier, if not a little more costly, but we'll get to that too. So thanks for your participation early. That bodes well for the end. You guys mentioned that it's confusing, right? You can't see these things sometimes. They're hard to see. They don't exist. And there's 7 of them. Like, what does all this mean? Last time I was here, the reason why some are in green and some are in red, or I'll put that to you, why are some of these codes, if you know what they are, in green and why are some in red for this presentation?
Except for one.
Yeah, representative of Montrose Recycles over here knows the answer. We are, Montrose Recycles collects these numbers, whatever they mean, Kevin, 1, 2, 4, and 5, and we don't encourage the recycling. In fact, we don't collect 3, 6, and 7. There are 7 different types of plastics, and when you're holding a product that has plastic in it, you might have 3 or 4 different types in that one product. The wrapping, the water bottle is different from the cap. We're going to talk a lot about that here in a minute. So pretty confusing stuff. So I'm holding this thing. I'm done with this pointer. Can I recycle it? I have no idea. There is no recycling label on this thing. I do know what this is made of, and it's not easily recyclable. All of this stuff is recyclable. It's not easily recyclable. 3, 6, and 7 are very expensive and time-consuming to try to recycle. So even when you have big, pretty graphics, you know, you try to communicate this to the public. So it tells me that PET or PETE or water bottles and your milk jugs are made up of this and so forth. It's still so darn confusing when you actually have it in your hand, you're done using it, and you're trying to do the right thing. So you guys nailed it. It's very, very confusing. So are you ready for the doom and gloom? We got to start here.
It's early.
It's too early to tell things. So this is no news. Plastic bottles are a major culprit of litter and a lack of recycling. Bottles and caps are 2 different plastics generally. We're going to talk about that too, and that changing technology. They're the 3rd and 4th most littered item just regularly across the globe. Does anyone want to guess what the number 1 and 2 most littered things are?
Bags.
Sorry?
Plastic bags.
Plastic bags and food wrapping. Yeah, that's number 2 actually on average globally. Number 1? Water bottles are 3 and 4. It's cigarette butts. I know. Still in 2025, by quantity, not by volume. There's, you know, as you count them up, but so that's a shame. There's lots of facts here. We're not going to have a test. Again, Kathy wanted that, but I said no. If you're not going to do it to save the planet, recycling, maybe you do it for yourself or stay away from plastics if you can. Lots of emerging research on microplastics. Those are big in the news right now. It's infiltrated our entire food web, the meat we eat, the fish, even the plants, just because plastics are ubiquitous in our environment. So it's unfortunate, but all that stuff is linked to these nasty things that you could catch. So, gosh, I think avoiding that stuff would be best. I found this statistic interesting. It takes up to 6 times as much water, which they sometimes refer to in the recycling world as blue water, to make the plastic bottle than that volume it holds. So you got a 16-ounce water bottle, it might take 6 times that to create it. And 17 million barrels of oil are necessary, not just to power your car, but to create the plastic that just the United States uses. That doesn't include China, India, all of Europe, and the rest of the world, just the United States, 17 million barrels. This is a complicated statistic to wrap your head around, but according to Save Our Shores, if we keep going at this pace, we'll be emitting as much pollution as 300 coal-fired power plants. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like a lot. All right, so we know that some of the current challenges to recycling are the fact that it's crazy confusing, sorting is complicated, there are too many colors, different types of plastics, the bottles are different from the caps, you're supposed to clean out that peanut butter jar, which is crazy difficult. Cross-contamination is a major, major problem, you know. If you don't clean out your yogurt cup, you don't clean out your peanut butter jar, that creates a huge problem for the downstream recycler. Montrose Recycles will collect that stuff, send it to the MRF, but then it's probably going to be turned into trash. So that's a drag. Lack of public awareness and the difficulty to recycle. This is where my last presentation was all about education and what we can do locally just to kind of share with your neighbor what's up. But the lack of the public awareness of what we can recycle, 1, 2, 3, and 4, not 5, 6, and 7, see, I'm already confused. And then the ease of that recycling, right? Does everybody have a blue or green recycle bin and you're using it reliably? Good for you. How about when you're downtown and you're just finished with your water bottle or there are some things, right? So there's 3 on our block between Uncompahgre and Cascade on our side of the street. There are 3 different receptacles. Good job, Montrose Recycles, thank you, but when you have a little round hole for your can and a larger hole for your trash, what do you think the odds of cross-contamination are from the visiting public? Yeah. Unless, like all of us here, we're super diligent and putting the right thing in the right place, but what are the odds of cross-contamination? Extremely high, and I'm going to get to that too. So I would contend that the ease of recycling, some consistent informational pieces are missing, not just locally, statewide, and nationally. And tire truckloads end up in landfills. So I'm going to talk about a study that our company did a couple of years ago. And one of the funniest, saddest things was there's a big 28-yard collection for glass. And we peeked in there because we were dumpster diving and everything. And there was a big old fish tank inside this glass container. Well, I think the person who put the used fish tank, they were done with it or it was broken or whatever, into the glass container was well-intentioned. It's mostly glass. But isn't it also held together on four sides and the bottom with silicone sealer, which is very difficult to recycle, if at all. And that bottom was plastic, and that was held on by glue. So you got 5 different, actually, things in that glass. I'm hoping that that entire truckload wasn't 28 yards of glass, wasn't trashed, but it possibly was. So, cross-contamination of things like that can cause damage to recycling machinery, which is a disincentive to the recyclers, so they'll just get rid of it instead of trying to take the manual time and labor involved in separating that stuff. And that which is recycled is generally of reduced quality and value when you go downstream. So you have something of high quality, food-grade plastic. Virgin plastic created that thing, a milk jug, for instance. It can be recycled from manual processes, crushing and chopping and melting, but then it gets downcycled. It's not as valuable. It has to then become package wrapping or something else, not food grade. That's a typical downcycle of plastics. So we'll get to that too. So I alluded to that plastic waste study that we did, or the solid waste study, and you're like, Kevin, is it really that bad? You know, is cross-contamination that much of a problem? Aren't people really trying to do the right thing in recycling? I think people are trying. But our company was commissioned in 2023 to do a comprehensive solid waste study for Glacier National Park. It's a tiny little park up north, you know? It only crosses the Canadian border and turns into Waters Lakes National Park. It's actually the 12th largest park. It has about 3+ million visitors a year. Okay. So we were commissioned to do a comprehensive study, and you know what the results, among other things, of this study was? All of the compressed gas cylinders, plastic, paper, aluminum, all of those collection things in their entire park that we were able to audit, dumpster dive into, were cross-contaminated. At every campground, every visitor center, every bus stop, everywhere, all of them. And that's actually the place where we saw the fish tank inside the glass container. So extremely disheartening. And we're like, well, why is that being done? We have all these collection containers. We have some pretty cool signage from Recycle America. What's going on? Well, here's one of the problems, and we can tie this back to possibly some solutions in Montrose. This is one of their campgrounds called Apgar Campground. Has 194 slips or spots for campers, 194. There is one spot to go in and into and out of this campground. That's relevant here in a minute. So somebody in the Glacier National Park, or the Glacier National Park Conservancy, had the really good idea and did a lot of effort. Commend them for putting 4-yard dumpsters all over the campground. Somehow they strategically placed these all over the campground. Additionally, near the restrooms, there were smaller collection devices for paper, aluminum, and plastics. And there were, randomly kind of scattered collection areas for compressed gas cylinders. All right, great. Lots of opportunity for people to put their recycling in the right places. Also, an equal amount of opportunity to cross-contaminate. Because when I've got this compressed gas cylinder and I'm done with it, and I think I should put it over here, and like, well, where's that? Here's a plastics, and I'll just leave it right there, or I'll put it inside that bin. And that's what was happening. Every single type of material was in every single type of other bin because there were so many opportunities. It is very counterintuitive, but we have found, not just with Glacier, but Saguaro National Park and some other national parks, the fewer opportunities to put your recyclables in, but given a better opportunity, works best. I'll try to repeat that here in a minute. So we suggested this. instead of scattering these things around, which was in theory a good idea, put them all together. A big comprehensive collection area, right? Here's, because the lights are here, this is compressed gas or propane or butane for your little portable stove or heater. This is what they had everywhere. Signs from Recycle America, plastic, glass, aluminum, very nice, and big 4-yard bear-proof containers. Those were everywhere, but scattered. We said, why don't you put those together? And if you did that, right where everybody bottlenecks, it seems counterintuitive, but this guy down here in 175, when he's ready to leave, believe it or not, because we want to protect our national parks and do the right thing, I think as good humans, we want to do the right thing, we're going to pack that stuff out. And it's only when I drive out, I'll just dump it right there. Instead of dumping something here and something there and something there and something there, right? So we suggested that they consolidate their collection areas. And in this case, there's a separate little campground would be nice because that's a picnic area. So 2 collection areas, not dozens. Does that make sense? So we'll see. It's only been to a full season, but we're hopeful that that will improve their recycling rates. We know from anecdotal evidence from other national parks that this kind of a thing, fewer opportunities, but with a better option, work. Okay? So I think the 3 collection containers on our block between Unco Padre and Cascade could be 1 collection container, maybe closer to Cascade, right by Citizens Bank, where there's a nice big open intersection there. Very well defined, very obvious, maybe some really cool signage that we could create. I think that would be a better solution. So tying that back to what we can do here. We know that the recycling rates in the United States are very low. And they're lower for plastics than other materials. We're doing an okay job with aluminum, glass, and paper. That's why I'm focusing on plastics again today. But only a very small percentage. I keep talking about that 30% number. A little bit of good news. It's all not doom and gloom here. Roughly 33%, according to NABCOR, of PET, which is basically water bottles and soda bottles, was being recycled in 2023. And that's the highest rate since 1996. So a little bit of more awareness. We get some applause for good news, yeah. All right, so still pretty darn low though. 66% is ending up in the landfills or being reused into cool little bird feeders or something. The problem with that data from NABCOR, that's just one source. We've got data variability. Everybody is measuring this stuff differently. EPA says one thing, Greenpeace will say another, Sierra Club will say another. Our information might indicate something different. So it's very, very difficult to hang your hat on any one data source. It all tends to point to the same thing, very low recycling rates, we're doing a bad job with plastics. The challenges again are cross-contamination, huge issue, biggest issue. Also the confusion, also the lack of labeling and information. I contend that there is just this overall lack of consistent infrastructure. Barbara mentioned that it's just different everywhere you go. We do a better job, I think, here than Delta does. So I'm not trying to hit one against another, but I think some consistency across the board would be helpful. Economics, that's where it comes down to. Coca-Cola figured it out that it's pennies less to use brand new virgin plastic than buying recycled plastic. They're probably going to go that direction. Coca-Cola is a bad example because they're actually doing a good job. I'll get to that too. But if you can imagine the corporations that create a lot of plastic, use a lot of plastic, if they can do it cheaper and they're beholden to shareholders, I mean, you know what they're going to do. Only the companies that are doing the right thing, and I'll challenge you later to go seek those companies out, are spending a little bit more money to do the right thing. But a lot of these companies are beholden to their shareholders. So, a little bit more here and then we'll keep moving. We use 50 billion plastic water bottles. This statistic is roughly the same in a lot of sources that I found. That's 13 water bottles each of us per month. That's a lot on average. I mean, if I look at a Broncos game, you can see that just hit the average right there for that. That rate is around 30%. Hopefully that 2023 statistic persists and it'll be climbing, but that's a huge challenge. And then we use 10% of all these bottles, despite being only half that as a percentage of the world's population. Just some statistics there. So, back to the topic of this, what is all this negative news, Kevin? What can we possibly look forward to? AI, artificial intelligence, is a great tool. It's emerging technology. It's in place in a lot of places. I'm going to get to that too. AI can identify different types of plastics just from, I don't know, from infrared. I truly don't know how it works, but AI can identify different plastics, classify them, sort them quickly, kick out PET from HDPE, from PVC, from acrylic, right? Very, very quickly. It can do it with cameras and sensors. I actually have a short video here for you to see that's pretty cool, I think. We'll actually show you instead of my just telling you. And those robots work 24/7. They don't get sick. They might break down, but they don't get sick. They can work 24/7. So there are places where the recycling rates have improved by well over 200%. It's not cheap, but as all technologies are, it gets cheaper over time. As there's more adoption, there's more investment in those sort of things. So here's a video. But first I would say, you're like, yeah, Kevin, but that's happening out in like Seoul, Korea, right? That's happening elsewhere. This is a company in Louisville, Colorado, right? So it's kind of in our backyard, over the mountain. They're doing this. So if you'll indulge me, it's about 2 minutes. And this is what's happening and coming soon.
There's value in waste. Always has been. Throughout history, when it's mattered most.
You'll give us your scrap. We'll turn it into planes.
We remember that there's a use for the things we throw away. The only question is, how to capture it. Today, we're called to do more than ever. To process more, recover more, and to lead more sustainable communities. But what got us here won't get us there. We need more power. We need tools that never tire. Technology that's smart enough to identify everything and fast enough to keep up with a job that's never done. This is the power of AMP. Harnessing AI to drive a new era of sortation. With less labor, more efficiency, and greater resource recovery. Because to unlock the value of waste, all you need is the power to sort it out. AMP, the power to solve waste.
So that's pretty cool, huh? It's no longer theoretical. That's a company in Louisville, Colorado that is supplying these kinds of machinery, AI, software to big companies across the United States and globally. So that's pretty cool. It's outside of the theoretical realm. It's going into practice. Just one more video because it can explain it far better than I can. And I'm not getting paid by AMP, by the way. I think I need to figure out how to. That would be cool. But this next video goes from so that's how they do it and that's what's possible to an actual example. This is a company called, can I pause it? This is a company called Evergreen.
Evergreen, based in Clyde, Ohio, is among the nation's largest PET recyclers. The company supplies food and non-food grade rPET pellets and flake to many top global brands, helping customers increase recycled content in their plastic packaging. Like most recyclers, Evergreen relies on manual sorting, but as volumes grew, manual sorting became less feasible given the difficulty of staffing and the onerous nature of the work.
A human at their best can pick maybe 40 bottles a minute. And we're asking them to do that for 12 hours a day, sitting in the same spot, without getting bored, sleepy, tired, hungry, sick, things of that nature.
Consistency was another challenge. Evergreen needs to create high-quality bales to meet the rigorous standards for the food-grade flake it provides to packaging producers. As Evergreen aimed to double its production capacity of food-grade rPET pellets to 80 million pounds per year, it began looking into robotics and different sorting technologies to expand recycling capacity. AMP's AI-guided robotics systems precisely identify different types of plastics by material composition, sorted further by color, clarity, opacity, and different form factors. Evergreen chose AMP for its AI expertise and the ability to recognize and sort clear bottles from green or opaque bottles. The reclaimer installed 6 AMP Cortex units, 5 in the final sorting area, and the 6th on a residue line as a last chance opportunity to pick bottles for recycling. With robots focused on refining the quality of material and separating plastics more accurately by color, Evergreen has seen a notable improvement in purity along with pick rates of up to 120 bottles per minute.
The interface of the software is very user-friendly. It's very easy to program the robots to understand what contamination is the most important to pull out.
AMP's AI and robotics technology has brought consistency to Evergreen's operations, allowing the reclaimer to focus on and drive improvements in other areas.
The robot is capable of learning and categorizing what it needs to pick those bottles in their way. So allowing the humans to make some higher level decisions, allowing the robots to get a consistent tool we need, it's a nice piece of harmony.
With AMP's technology, Evergreen is combining greater productivity with reduced contamination, generating more high quality recycled content to meet its bottle-to-bottle recycling goals.
A little bit of a sales pitch, but you get the idea. Whoops. So, one thing that I didn't mention there, to recap quickly, Evergreen is a company that takes plastics, chops it up, puts it back into new plastics for new use, right? They've been doing that for a while. It's with AI technology that they can do it much more efficiently around the clock. So that's kind of what that gentleman was saying. What they didn't talk about is when a user, say the city of Montrose, sends all of its recycling out, there's a credit that comes back for that which is recyclable. Presently, the return on that is pathetic, right? When we were interviewing the staff at Glacier National Park, I put them to this question. I said, "Can you show it?" And I actually looked at their balance sheet, their numbers. What they were getting after sending tons and tons of this stuff from their park to Whitefish, Montana, to be recycled and upstreamed, and then they finally get a check back eventually, was literally pennies. It was because, as we discovered, everything was cross-contaminated everywhere. So only that which they ended up manually resorting, some human being, some park ranger had to go out there and take that fish tank out of there so they could actually recycle that glass and get some money back. It was very, very low. So this would then return more money to the company, the municipality, the park that would entertain this kind of an option. So that's all some very fancy, no longer science fiction, it's here and now, but it seems very costly to want to install right away, right? And that's after the plastic is all used and you've separated the bottle from the cap and so forth. But I'd like to share with you some new technologies that are very cool. This one, tethered plastic caps. So they are now creating, there are a few companies in the world creating plastic bottles and caps of the same material, pretty much PET. Now you can take that whole thing, toss it, and it's tethered, so it doesn't have to be separated. It can be baled up and sent to the MRF. And if you can imagine, we had a bale of 100% PET sent to the MRF, we're gonna get a lot of money back on that deal, as opposed to being cross-contaminated. So this is very cool stuff. It's being kind of driven by some EU regulations, and just recently, about a year ago, the EU mandated this. So companies like Coca-Cola have 100% of their European bottles as tethered caps or 100% completely recyclable. Another small company you may have heard of, Nestle, they are on the path to 100% recyclable and reusable bottles. So that's very cool. This is a company I doubt you've heard of. Full disclosure, I invest in it, but Origin Materials has 2 plants currently underway. They make a variety of plastics. They're leading the way. They have a patent on tethered caps. They also make plastic parts and have contracts with Ford, Lancome for cosmetics packaging and stuff like that. So they do a lot of stuff. What's cool about Origin is that not only are they using PE, they're creating PET, which is infinitely recyclable. They're creating that virgin plastic from wood pulp. Again, I don't understand the science. Sounds pretty cool, but they're not taking chemicals to create plastic. They're using what would have been discarded wood, green waste anyway, creating PET, virgin PET, creating these cool tethered caps that look like this, available now in Europe. And that product is easily, infinitely recyclable into new virgin quality PET. So there are definitely some highlights in the world and in the United States happening right now. So, not just Europe, but Europe has made it law. The EU, I should say, the European Union has made it law in those collective countries. So.
But so Coca-Cola still doesn't, like they comply over there, but they don't over here.
Not 100%, that's correct, yeah. They know that the business model is leading that way, I would say, but good point, and as I mentioned before, in the United States, in most cases, it's still cheaper to go get some virgin plastic to create your soda bottles. So, but this is emerging, it's coming, that's what this is all about, AI and emerging technologies. So in addition to these very cool new techniques to manually separate, sort, and recycle plastics, there are some chemical processes. Basically, chemical processes will break down through some methods I'll talk about kind of quickly because it's some sciencey stuff. Break down those plastics into the monomers, that's the basic unit of the plastic. And those monomers would then be turned into new plastic, and when a chemical process does it as opposed to mechanical processing, the quality of that recycled plastic is much better. So instead of downgrading, as I mentioned before, it's equal to virgin plastic, almost. So very close. So there's no more downcycling. These chemical processes will create virgin equivalent plastics. I won't go into too much of this. Pyrolysis is one that uses no oxygen, creates a few new types of products that can be used. Gasification creates, using a little bit of oxygen, creates a lot of hydrogen. That's mostly used for energy. I'm only going over this to validate my next slide. Depolymerization is that thing that we talk a little bit about, also called dissolution, using some kind of catalyst or solvent to break down the plastic into that virgin equal PET in that case. What's cool about dissolution is that there are different catalysts, different solvents that can attack different plastics. So if you have a bin that's completely mixed of all kinds of different plastics, they can use one solvent to identify PET, one solvent to identify HDPE, one solvent to identify PVC, etc. So this is super exciting. It's also still very expensive. This uses heat and water, and then there are some really crazy things, novel catalytic processes that I truly don't understand. So, how it helps? Using chemical dissolution sort of eliminates the problem of cross-contamination. You know, I don't have to worry as an individual what I'm holding, and if it's recyclable, I'm pretty sure it's plastic, so I can throw it in the bin. If I know that the MRF in Denver, for instance, is using chemical dissolution, be fairly confident that it's going to be recycled into a new product. So we take that, and we get these. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Again, this is not science fiction, this is happening. I'm about to tell you about a couple of companies that I'm sure you'll recognize that are actually doing it. So dissolution is popping up in that case. And here's why I mentioned it. Not a very complicated graph when you look at it, but this is the solvent dissolution I'm talking about compared to some of those other chemical recycling methods. Let me quickly just direct your attention that this kind of dark blue section shows that chemical dissolution has a higher output versus the others. It uses fewer emissions than the others. It uses less blue water than the others. I mentioned blue water, how much water it takes to create that water bottle 6 times. And it uses less energy than the others. So this is where there's a lot of investment. And I don't mean by the federal government or state governments, it's mostly by commercial companies like Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble and Dow Chemical into this stuff. Billions of dollars into this, recognizing that plastics aren't only a global problem, there's global profit to be made for these companies once that technology becomes much more accessible in the industry. So there's P&G, Procter & Gamble. They have just invested, this is as of March 2024, a little over a year ago, in this process. So they are currently doing this. So when I found that out, I quickly, who makes my Gain? Who makes my Gain bottle? I use Gain laundry detergent. Well, it's Procter & Gamble. So I felt a little gratified that I'm doing the right thing accidentally. So it's being done today in companies that you know and recognize and probably use. So that's all cool, Kevin. nice stuff, AI, chemical dissolution. What does that mean to me? How can we, what can we do? We're not going to go spend $1 billion to go install this technology at Montrose Recycles, I don't think. Can we? No. Does anybody recognize this logo? 55 years old this year as of Earth Day. It was created in 1970. It has become, it's called Chasing Arrows colloquially, and it's come to represent reduce, reuse, and recycle, right? That's not news to anybody. I think recycling, and certainly I've been talking about the recycling aspect of this triangle a lot. It gets all the press. It's the one running down the red carpet with all the paparazzi for people like us who are curious about it. Reuse gets a little bit less, but it's there, right? We are encouraged, if we're gonna, before we recycle it, before it gets cross-contaminated and ends up in the landfill anyway, let's try to reuse it as much as possible. That's why I have this bottle here that I've used for many years now, right? We want to reuse what we have as much as possible. And before we even reuse it, we should probably reduce our use in the first place. Don't you agree? And that's where I'm going with this. What can we do in practical application today in Montrose? Starting today, if you're not already doing it, and you wonderful people are doing a good job with this, I know, but we need to reduce our use, okay? We need to reduce what we use. And I have some thoughts as you leave here today, hopefully you'll take with you. So if you're reducing what you use, you have less to reuse, and you have less ultimately to recycle, right? So you can just self-audit whether you're doing these things or whether you even can do some of these things, right? To reduce your use, look for alternatives. Can you use a water bottle? I can tell you this very proudly, Gabrielle and I have not bought a case of water bottles in 5 years now, right? Once. For a recycling presentation, which was a mistake. And I heard about it. So can you not buy single-use water bottles? Right? Can you bring your own? Can you even use recyclable food containers? Quick story, we have a partner in our EH&S company. Her name is Lee. She's in Wisconsin, wonderful lady. When we travel with her to do audits, yeah, we're staying in hotels, so we have to eat out mostly. Not a lot of these places have kitchenettes, and we're sometimes very remote. So she brings her own Tupperware. So we go out to dinner. She's a little lady. She never finishes her meal, but she always takes her leftovers home in her own Tupperware, right? And that Tupperware is like 50 years old. I think she bought it at a Tupperware party in the 70s. So God bless her, right? I thought she was nuts at the beginning, but I think she's a genius now, right? She also brings her own coffee container, so her own coffee maker, not even using the cups that the hotel provides. This is huge in the news. Avoid single-use plastics. That's why we can't get one at the city market anymore. It's fine with me. I use recyclable bags. Sometimes I have to pay 10 cents for a paper bag, but that's going to decompose, so I'm okay with that. Other things you can do, buy in bulk. Instead of that small box of minute rice once a week, if you eat that much rice, buy a big one, put it in a very cool glass container in your jar. It looks cooler. You have maybe one box every couple of months instead of a smaller box more frequently. That's just off the top of my head, right? But bulk items is a great way that maybe you haven't thought of or maybe you're not doing, that you could reduce your use. Proper sorting, we talked a little bit about that. If you understand your local guidelines, you know what can go in that blue or green red bin every Tuesday or Wednesday, every other Tuesday or Wednesday. Also, if you haven't been to Montrose Recycle's website, do it because it's updated for 2025. So understand that. Here's something that goes a little bit beyond just simple. This takes a little bit more effort. Go seek out those companies that actually take responsibility for the life cycle of their products. I'm happy I'm buying Gain laundry detergent because at least they're curious about chemical dissolution. And I try to investigate those companies. It's difficult though, right? The companies that are proud of what they're doing, that are actually investing their own money in these things, they'll brag about it on their website. So that's easy to find. You can go to Patagonia, which I'll talk about again, and find out what are they doing for the planet. What are they doing for recycling efforts? So you can do a little bit of effort before you just grab it off the shelf and buy it. There's a couple of companies that make sort of almost disposable clothing, mostly from China. Temu, Shein, right? Never would I ever buy something from those folks. That's just me. Prioritize those durable goods. Invest in a Yeti, right? Invest in long-lasting products to reduce, I'm not paid by Yeti either. Repair, reuse, we've already talked about repurpose, there's a lot of other R's. I'm gonna get to another one that I think we should put in our vernacular, another R word coming up here shortly. Fix those things, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, because we do these things, right? But I think we can share these ideas and these notions with our neighbors. Not gonna rat her out, but we have a neighbor who's so proud of her recycling. She's got 3 bins. How can you possibly have 3 bins of recycling every other week? And because I know it's probably cross-contaminated, she's not doing our planet, our community any good. So I smile and wave like, good job. Conscious purchasing. Consider the environmental impact. That kind of goes back, it ties to the looking into those companies that are doing the right thing. That other R word that I suggest we put in our common vernacular, reduce, reuse, recycle, repurpose, repair, replace, all those sorts of things. How about refuse it? Let's refuse before we use. It is hard. Who said that? It's hard, man. It is so hard. That jacket is at the grocery store, sure, and we gotta eat. So, you know, that plastic bin of mushrooms that I really need for my pizza is wrapped in plastic. I hate that. There's 2 different types of plastic holding my mushrooms, but I gotta get those mushrooms. So you're tied to it a little bit, but if you can refuse to use it in the first place, I have some techniques to kind of go away from and think of when you leave here today, possibly. But seriously think, do I need that, I don't know, do I need a cup of coffee from San Juan today? Because I don't know, I'm not confident that that cup is going to be properly recycled. Maybe I can just refuse that today. Under the heading of refuse, this is a great campaign. Had anybody ever seen this before? Patagonia came out with this in 2012, yeah? I love it. Man, I love this thing. Don't buy this jacket. Don't buy anything from us if you don't need it. If you don't need it, right? Refuse to purchase something that you don't need. Or if you're gonna buy it, consider its longevity, right? Its disposability. Again, I'm not going to talk about any other companies, but using the Shine and Temu model, since they're China, I wouldn't do that because they're intentionally disposable, and I hate that. So don't buy this jacket, says Patagonia, and it went on to talk about this larger campaign, the Common Threads Initiative. You can take your used stuff to a Patagonia store. They will either repair it and resell it in their used kind of market, or they will actually take the materials. They have staff that will unstitch them, unbutton them, repurpose as much as they possibly can before they dispose of what's left. So very cool, very cool. Not paid by Patagonia either. I like this, and other companies like it. So those are the types of things that I look for. And when a great campaign works, it's great to be copied. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So this company, I know it's hard to read, but it's talking about 100 billion plastic bags every year. This is a few years prior to our plastic ban, so they use the same thing. I mean, it looks exactly like the jacket. It's the same Pantone color even, so. Cool stuff. Just refuse to use if you can, and think about those things that you must use. I'm intentionally ending early to entertain all of your questions, but let me suggest a couple of things that you could think about. As we refuse to reuse, to use, I challenge you to think in Montrose today, do I need this? When you're standing there, do I need this? Do I absolutely need this thing? That's a hard question. It really is, because I need that new shirt. Is there an alternative? I'm proud of the fact that I've had this for years. I have a hat from 2019 that has endured 3 different moves. I have about a dozen other hats too, but is it easily recyclable? So if you do have to buy it, yeah, yes, I do need this. No, there isn't an alternative. Is it easily recyclable? Maybe we look for that code on the bottom. Hopefully we can find that and know where it can be easily recyclable. Is the company that created it at least a little eco-conscious? The Patagonia model in my brain. Will it last? Will it last more than 1 use or 10 uses or 100 uses? How long can I make this thing last? That's a good challenge. Can it be reused or repurposed when I'm done? Right? I am embarrassed to admit to you today that we have 3 bottles of French's yellow mustard in the refrigerator. I don't know how that happened. I failed. Wow. miraculously failed. So I'm thinking, we got a 10-year supply of mustard, man. And when that's done, I'll do my best to recycle those bottles, but maybe next time I can find a glass jar of mustard. It might be a little bit more expensive, because then I can use that glass jar in my shed for all those little bits of screws and bolts that I have lying around. That's a good thought that I had as I was putting this together. Do I really need this? Really? So those are some questions that you guys can ask about. And I'm very happy that you're all here today. I'd love to give you all the time that we can spare for some questions. Hopefully I'll be able to answer them. If not, I have a notebook to make notes. So let's get there. Questions? Gabrielle's gonna help me out with that.
Yeah, don't be impatient with my day.
So my question is, so the companies like Shein or all these companies are targeted, you're talking about campaigns like Patagonia, great campaign, but they're targeting our teenagers and our youth. And that's how they're successful. They're making it if you're buying all these things from Shein and your dollar goes so much further, you go mow a lawn and you can get 5 shirts, whatever. So why don't we target our youth with reuse, recycle, and be more it's okay.
I love it. Is drop the mic a thing anymore? That's what we need to do. I mean, I think education is absolutely the key, and I think it starts at kindergarten or younger, right? Man, you just nailed it. I mean, that is the key, because it's cool to buy this new shirt that comes from wherever, and it comes in a plastic wrap thing inside of a box that Amazon sent in another box sometimes. So yeah, it's absolutely an education thing, and that's going to start at home. It's going to, we lean a lot on the schools already, but it would be great to hit that up in the schools in I don't know, social studies and things like that, and how that use is impacting the planet, because that's the thing part. What is this that makes me happy now buying this new product? Instant gratification. How does that play out, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about. Instant gratification, delayed gratification for the betterment of our fellow human being. Wow. Okay. Next. Thank you, Delphine. Very good.
I'm going to go to the back.
Number 3.
Also lead by example, right?
Okay, talking to great folks with recommends.
Yeah.
About 90% of this metal, steel, etc. is recycled. Okay, nationwide. Aluminum is less than 20. So I've been kind of watching on lids, inside the lid, lots and lots of aluminum that doesn't really have a way of recycling. Because anything less than 4 inches, there's a possibility of falling out, etc. So nobody wants it. So do you have any suggestions on a way of recycling that aluminum?
Can you share with me what kind of, are we talking other than cans?
A
Yes.
yogurt container. It
Okay.
has a plastic bottle that has the
Oh, the
aluminum on
lid?
the top.
Yeah.
Or some smaller ones. A lot of them have aluminum on the inside,
Yeah.
screw-on cap, etc.
Yeah.
So there's lots of that aluminum out there.
I don't have a good answer for you right now. That's a real problem. One of the things I didn't mention, and I'll tie this back real quickly, in that dissolution, chemical dissolution of plastics, it's able to take multiple different types of plastics. So we have products that have multiple different kinds of plastics all in one. It's fused together probably by glue or just fused together by heat. This chemical dissolution can separate each of those individual ones out. So I'm guessing, sir, there's got to be a technology currently existing or evolving that will take the plastic out to one stream and the aluminum out to another stream, and both can be recycled. That's a huge problem. Metal recycling is a big problem, aluminum in particular, but not as much as plastic. But that's an excellent example of, we don't even really think about when we grab that yogurt container that it's 2 or 3 different types of things. Not to mention the food that's left over that has to be cleaned out for proper recycling, right? So you got plastic, maybe that plastic container has a different type of plastic for its label, and then it's got an aluminum lid on top. We haven't even talked about the dyes that they use to print on all that stuff. That's an excellent question. I wish I had a better answer, because that's a form of cross-contamination that comes right off the shelf before you even buy it.
I was hoping that maybe you would look forward in this.
I would be very happy to, because that's an excellent, yeah. So next year, when I'm back. I'll tell you about that one.
Don't buy it.
I'm gonna go back up to the front.
So on the refuse, I struggle at the grocery store, especially when you go to buy the meat, proteins, fish, and stuff. They're on a styrofoam tray. They have that little padding in there to absorb the juices, and then there's plastic wrap overlaying it. I bought some ground turkey the other day. It had that thing inside of it. There's no recycling symbol on it. Do I have to go to the meat counter and just say, wrap it only in paper, please?
I love that idea. Well, that's a great way to refuse. Wow, thank you for that. I thought you were gonna make me cry, but now I'm really happy. That dark brown, I shop at Safeway generally, but that dark brownish grayish thing is actually a type 2. I double check it. Sometimes it's very difficult to see. So that is recyclable by Montrose Recycles. But then it has that weird moisture absorbing thing, which is half plastic and half something else. And then it's wrapped. You know what kills me? Tuna steaks that are wrapped in plastic, that are then on a tray wrapped in plastic. It kills me. I would love to talk with Kroger and Safeway ownership for that. But she just gave you the best idea as far as that goes. Go to say, instead of that one that's in there, can you wrap me a new one in just paper? That's great. By the way, that paper is plastic lined.
Yeah, I know.
So, can't win for losing.
I'm gonna go over here.
Excellent idea. Thank you for that. That was really
So many questions.
I know.
Couple of things. Great, we don't use those plastic bags anymore, but inside every rubbish bin is a plastic bag. Why are we talking about biodegradable? That's the first one. Everything is, not everything, but there's a lot of 3D printing. Can't we use recycled plastic for that?
Excellent. Regarding the 3D printing, a lot of that plastic is recycled because it's downgraded. It can't be food grade. It can be mixed. It doesn't have to be super pure unless you're 3D printing something that must be of extremely high tolerance, whatever. But that's a great question. 3D printing spools that you might buy online are very often recycled, and I would encourage you to look for those companies that supply it that way if you're a 3D printer. Bags like that, awesome notion, and I think it's an hour long. Actually, I spoke for about 45 minutes to give you time, but we could talk about a lot of biodegradable plastics. There are a lot of biodegradable plastics. One thing that I didn't talk about, because it's not chemical recycling, but it's bio-recycling. They have proteins and enzymes and things that they're incorporating into mixed recycling to attack certain types of plastics. So excellent. Again, look into your supplier. Is Hefty doing that? I don't know off the top of my head. That would be something I could certainly look into.
One more
Yeah,
thing.
go for it.
If it's got that little manager special thing, my husband's buying it all in plastic, you have to go to the corporation, because when I talk to
Oh yeah,
the
locally
city
won't
market,
get anything done. You're right.
so
Yep.
refuse.
Yep. Thank you. I get Mr. Kroger on the phone. Hi.
I recently received from the city the report on our water quality. Am I not? Okay, that's better. On water quality, and it's a whole long report that tells us that the water that we have coming out of our taps in Montrose, Colorado is at least as pure as what we get out of plastic bottles. So refillable bottles are like, they're not just a thing. It saves you a whole lot of money. It saves you a whole lot of trouble. You can probably find a tap just about anywhere to refill your bottles. So refillable bottles are the answer.
I brought my prop. That's excellent information. I have that in my inbox too. I just haven't looked at it yet, so thanks for the cliff notes.
I have one other thing. When you talk about contamination, can you expound on that a bit? It's not just the peanut butter in the jar. There's a whole lot of ways that we can prevent contamination of our, particularly our plastics.
Do you want to share some of the ways? Because obviously, separating your cross contamination doesn't just mean the food. It's that plastics bin in Ledger National Park had a Doritos wrapper in it, and it had a propane bottle in it, and it had a glass bottle in it. You know, just trash. So cross contamination means just keep them separate, and that's where that AI technology sort of takes the takes the manual recycling, the thought process out of it. You can take a completely mixed bin and then you can pick those out. Those are the ones that I'm thinking about, cleaning and just separating.
Yeah, there's a lot of wish cycling that goes on. A lot of people see, oh, that broken toy, that's plastic. I'm going to throw it in the plastic bin.
Like a fish
Well,
tank.
that can contaminate, yeah, an entire load. And once you have a 1,000-pound or 2,000-pound bale that's put on a truck that is contaminated, that can cause the entire load to not be recycled and for it to go to the landfill.
And if you guys weren't aware of that, that's how it happens. Your plastics and other recyclables go locally, it gets baled, goes to the MRF. The MRF will evaluate it and return a credit back to Montrose for that which is recyclable. So, good example, a toy that has a dozen different materials, plastic, cloth, metal, whatever. Yeah, we just have to be vigilant in separating. I think we have to be vigilant in separating stuff, and then in the case of food, cleaning it. Just spend a little bit of water to do that. Thanks for the water information too, because incidentally, if I'm not mistaken, certainly Colorado, and I don't even think federally, there are already water standards. You can literally go anywhere. You can go to Flint, Michigan, and fill up a water bottle and sell it as bottled water. So I'm very glad to know that our water is that pure, and maybe we should all start a Montrose Recycler bottling company.
Hi, my question is, with dissolution technology, is the only byproduct of that the plastic? What happens with what else is produced that we then need to take care of using that technology?
That's an excellent question. There are absolutely other products, and depending on the variety of things and the catalyst that's used and the gases that are emitted and so forth, there are things that have to be dealt with. However, those are generally less in quantity and less bad for the environment than simply throwing that entire thing away to decompose over the next 10,000 years. So there are things that must be dealt with, and I believe that the super responsible companies like Origin Materials, for instance, they know what to do with that. I can't address specifically what's being done because I don't know exactly what the byproducts are, but I think the benefit of the responsible dissolution recycling outweighs what they still have to deal with. It's a great question. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not 100%, but it's certainly a lot better than 50 billion water bottles annually. So. Anyone?
Our school district does recycle. The Mary Lawn Carr is giving an alternative to plastics at the senior center on the 12th, Monday at 1. She's already given a presentation that's excellent. So you can get alternative products that don't have plastic in them. And I'm also with Montrose Recycles, and I got about 10 metal bottles. I'll put them out here for you to take. If you know someone that could use them and reuse them, please take them and recycle.
Thank you very much, Janet. Very much. Cynthia.
You ready to go in the back? Okay. Lots of questions. This is great.
I also went to that presentation by Mary Lake Carr last weekend, Rethinking Plastic. It's an excellent program, and she gives you lots of samples of things that use less things that you don't have to recycle. But the one thing I asked her is, what about she basically said, recycle ones and twos. Don't even bother with the rest because it just ends up in the landfill and it's more work for everybody. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't agree with it. I know that that is sort of the standard across the United States. Like last time we talked about, well, it's on the website, it's on the Montrose Recycle. When in doubt, throw it out, right? 1 and 2s are the most common. There are water bottles, or soda bottles, or milk jugs. So those are, and there are a lot of communities. Delta's one of them that only takes 1 and 2 and nothing else, if I remember correctly. So I don't agree with that, but it is the standard, and I would say taking the lesser of evils, it's better to just do 1 and 2s if you're confused about the rest than doing nothing at all. But when you go to communities around the country, there are many that only take PET and HDPE, those are the 1 and 2s, which are basically soda bottles and milk jugs. So your answer is, do I agree with that? No, I think we should take a little bit more effort. I think municipalities should be encouraged at least to try, because 4 and 5 in Montrose, we're doing that successfully.
But are they really recycled?
They are in fact recyclable. Whether they're recycled, that goes upstream. Like, I have not yet followed a bale from here to Denver to wherever they process it. I would love to do that if I had the time, energy, and money to do so. So it's a complicated answer because they are recyclable. If they're being recycled is a completely different question. So, thanks.